You ever wonder, how do we really know something is true? It's a massive question, right? But the answer isn't some big secret. It's actually a method. Science gives us this incredible set of tools, kind of like a blueprint for finding answers we can trust. And today, we're going to see exactly how that blueprint works. I mean, it seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? More sun equals taller plants. But what if you had to prove it? Like really prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt? How would you even start? Let's take this super simple question and use it to build a proper experiment right from scratch. See, just guessing can get you into trouble. It can lead you way off track. If you want a real answer, one you can count on, you need that blueprint we talked about. So let's do it. Let's build one together, piece by piece, starting right at the very foundation. All right, so the very first part of our blueprint, the foundation itself, it's where every single scientific journey kicks off. Making a smart, educated guess. In science, we call that a hypothesis. So what's the big difference between a hypothesis and just a random guess? Well, the single most important thing is that it has to be testable. It's a really specific prediction that you can actually build an experiment around to see if it's right or wrong. There's no maybe about it. You know, a really great trick for building a solid hypothesis is using this simple little formula. If, then. It's great because it forces you to link a cause with an effect. For our plant question, it's absolutely perfect. If we give plants more sunlight, then they will grow taller. See? Simple, super clear, and totally ready to be put to the test. And just to make this crystal clear, let's look at a comparison. A good hypothesis would be something like, if the temperature goes up, then ice will melt faster. You can measure temperature, and you can measure how fast ice melts. Easy. But a bad hypothesis, something like, ice is better than water. I mean, what does that even mean? How on earth do you measure better? You just can't. That's the key. A good hypothesis has to be specific and something you can actually measure. Okay, so we've got our testable guess locked in. The next step is to break that guess down into its moving parts. We need to figure out the things we're actually going to change and the things we're going to measure. These are what we call the variables. First up, we have the independent variable. Here's a little trick to remember it. Think of the I in independent as the thing that I change. In any good experiment, you only want to change one single thing at a time to see what happens. Well, this is that one thing. So let's think back to our plants. What's the one factor we're deliberately messing with? It's the amount of sunlight, right? That makes the sunlight our independent variable. Okay, so we're changing the sunlight. Now what? What's the result we're actually looking for? How are we going to know if changing the sun did anything at all? What exactly are we supposed to measure? Well, that thing we measure has a name. It's the dependent variable. And the name is a huge clue, right? Its outcome depends on the change we made to the independent variable. This is our result. This is the effect we're watching for. So, back to our experiment. What we'll be measuring is the plant's height. The whole question is, does the height of the plant depend on the amount of sunlight it received? That's exactly what we want to know. So in this case, the plant's height is our dependent variable. And right there, that's the absolute heart of any experiment. You have the thing you change, that's your independent variable, and that leads to the thing you measure, your dependent variable. It's the classic cause and effect relationship, laid out plain and simple. Awesome. So we've got our hypothesis, we've got our variables, we're pretty much set, right? Well, hang on a second. Think about it. If our sunny plant grows taller, how do we know for sure it was the sunlight? What if it was something else entirely? To make sure we're isolating just our one variable, we need one more super important piece: controls. Exactly. I mean, think about it. If one plant gets more sun, but you also happen to give it more water, you have no idea which thing made it grow taller. Your results are basically useless. That's why we have control variables. Everything else, the type of soil, the size of the pot, how much water each plant gets, all of that has to be kept exactly the same across the board. Now, a huge part of keeping things fair is something called a control group. Its job is really simple. It's there to show us what would have happened anyway, without our experiment. It's our baseline, our point of comparison. For a plant experiment, this would be a plant that gets just the normal, regular amount of sunlight so we can see how it grows without our special treatment. And I know what you might be thinking. Why bother? Isn't that just a waste of a perfectly good plant? Well, it turns out that this baseline group is maybe the most important part of the whole setup. Seriously, without it, the entire experiment can just fall apart. So, why is it so important? It's because the control group is what makes the comparison fair. It is the only way to know with confidence that the change you saw was because of the one thing you changed, and not just some random coincidence. If you don't have that baseline, any conclusion you make is built on really shaky ground. Okay, we've done it. We've gathered all the essential pieces: a testable hypothesis, our independent and dependent variables, and our crucial controls. So now, let's take a step back and look at the complete blueprint for discovery that we've just put together. And there it is. It really all boils down to this powerful four-step process. First, you make a testable guess. Second, you figure out what you're going to change and what you're going to measure. Third, you set up a control group for a fair comparison. And fourth, you look at your results. That simple loop, right there, is the engine that drives all of scientific discovery. And here's the most important thing to take away from all this. This blueprint, it's not just for scientists in lab coats. It's a powerful tool for thinking, for anybody. You wonder if that new workout plan is actually doing anything, or if a different way of studying will help your grades? This is how you find out for real. So I'm going to leave you with a little challenge. Think about it. What's an everyday question you have that you could test? What's something you really want a real answer to? Because now you have the blueprint. The power to actually find out is in your hands.